My name is Mark Mason. I am 52 years old. I just moved to Eugene last October, or actually, I'm sorry, I moved to this current residence in October, but I moved to Eugene last July, and it's been a great experience so far. Me having a history of living in a number of different places all over the United States has really given me a lot of experience with living in different communities. So this is just kind of just another discovery, really. I'd spent some time here in Eugene, going back many years, probably to the early '90s or so. I've worked in the concert business for about 35 years as a concert production manager, and you name it, and I've probably done it on that side of the industry. So it did bring me here to Eugene several times for concert work and otherwise. So I've always had kind of a little love affair with this place, and the people here are a lot like my consciousness and the way that I like to live in some ways. Growing up in the East Coast as well, as that's where I'm originally from Philadelphia, and kind of migrating west after high school, and just to kind of see what was out here, and not stagnate in on the East Coast. That was really my whole premise. I just wanted to be somewhere different. So I moved to San Francisco, and most of my adult life and work career was in San Francisco, starting back in 1990 till 2005 or so. That was my base in the Bay Area. So that, of course, shares a lot, far as just sort of how people move. It's a kind of, a Bay Area is a more or less a liberal minded place. People there are more accepting than a lot of places of all people than most in our country. So that was really refreshing moving there, living on the East Coast, where I find, there are pockets of that where people can just be people. So it was nice to, be able to move to a place like San Francisco that was so accepting, and just through my experience there, kind of opened my eyes to, um, how diverse things can be, amongst people and races and that type of thing. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, what my life's been like. Also, my mother is also a musician and well-known artist. Her name is Barbara Mason, and uh, had some great songs going back to mid '60s. She's kind of noted as a Philadelphia music legend, and so I was very lucky to come up in that type of environment too. So give her a lot of credit in being around a lot of great music for opening my eyes a little bit too. So that's a big part of me too.
So, you haven't been here in Eugene, living in Eugene for very long, and obviously there's been a bit of a pandemic going on, and so you might not have been out as much as before. But as far as your experience as a person of color on the streets, have you noticed anything different than other places you've lived, or how have you been received? Or
Well,
gifts.
I've always looked at people as people. I was just raised that way. Um, the neighborhood I grew up with in Philadelphia was mixed. It's a mixed neighborhood. So I've always not look color has never been a thing with me. Um, but I will say, in terms of your question, I think, um, Eugene is a lot more, like I was saying, more kind of liberal minded, a little more open minded than say some of the more. I consider Oregon to be a rural state. It's not a lot of big cities, small towns. So and that also brings small town mentality. You know, um, so Eugene is kind of a capsule. It's kind of a place that's it's its own thing. So I kind of liken it to Berkeley. It's kind of a same sort of vibe, maybe even a little more um, liberal than Berkeley. Like Berkeley used to be. This is how Eugene is. So, but as being out in the public, and of course you can't be everywhere now, given pandemic and everything. Places that I have visited have been public, markets and stores, and those are always kind of a good gauge too on the vibe of a place. I've always kind of lived in, a neighborhood like Urasaki. It's like deja vu or something. Like this is kind of like my New Orleans neighborhood, in a way, where you kind of know everyone, you see people, if you're out in the street enough. And I'm that type of person. I'm aware of like where I am, and I feel like I am a visitor. I am, whether I'm black or not. I'm new here. So I'm been feeling it out, and I've felt no direct racial vibe. Been all very welcoming. Um, I don't think people are going out of their way, if you know what I'm saying, to be nice, or stuff like that. I feel like it's genuine. Um, I think I told you about my beautiful experience with the person with the envelope who just handed me the envelope with the money. Uh, that sort of a pay it forward angel person just sort of came out of nowhere and gave me this envelope. So I thought that was special about Eugene. I don't think that's happened. I don't think that's ever happened to me. So thought that was special. But I think Eugene is trying. Eugene is trying to understand the issues we have racially, and that's half the battle right now. I think for everyone on both sides. Um, can't change the past. I've never been that type of person, where I think I can change what happened before me. You can only really learn from that. You know, I do feel like if given the chance and the right education about things and exposure to things on both sides, black, white, whatever it is, groups that need to come together, we need to be able to like, you know, uh, learn. So um, I think this has been a great learning period. My life certainly has slowed down. I'm in the music industry and it's not happening right now. It's slowly coming back, but I don't think it'll ever really be the same for me. I've been doing it a long time. So I'm I can transition, to other things. But um, I do feel like we've made some steps through this. We've had to pivot to a lot of different things, um, to get through this. And it's interesting that it's all happening at once, COVID, you know, racial stuff that's been, you know, we had to talk about it, at some point, Um, it's just our lives that seem to have slowed a bit. And I hope that, some people can see what's really happening now. Sometimes life is moving and you don't see what's really happening. So maybe this has been there's a plus there for us to, you know,
Slow down.
slow down. And but Eugene's done a good job of being aware that that there are issues that way.
When you moved to town, how have you been involved civically? I mean, have you been
Mm,
involved with some of the protests? Have you been involved with any of?
no, I haven't. My politics, are, I've been the guy in the street. I lived in the Bay Area and through several periods of unrest in Oakland and Berkeley and San Francisco and Gulf War and, you know, advocate for lots of things. But my energy now is not like there.
Mhm,
Um, it's more just like making people aware of like kind of the forum we're having right now, those
mhm,
type of discussions, real discussions to, get to the real root of issues. I can't get I'm not going to get riled up and go and like, you know, damage property, get mad. It's not going to like, it's not really going to solve it,
mhm,
So I have not been involved that way. And again, been very cautious because of COVID as
mhm,
well. So it hasn't, I don't think haven't been afforded enough time, but I've obviously been aware of things. I've had thought about getting a hold of NAACP here too, just to know who they are. And generally in the areas that I've lived in, I've always had an interest in, um, African American groups and causes.
mhm.
So I plan on definitely, you know, finding out what where the needs are civic.
How do you think the music industry plays into um, making sure that people's voices are heard?
Well, I think, that's one of those universal things. Music is, I think it kind of blurs the borders, there's everyone um enjoys music, I think. Music has played a good part in always in um protests
Mhm,
and um telling people stories about their struggles, um discrimination,
mhm.
you know exposing those type of things. So that's what music is has been great for. So it's exposing social issues in a way that everyone can relate to.
We've been asking people also like what you have seen has changed, uh, even nationally in the last year, or and even since the new administration.
After things happen, we tend to forget, or we cycle through things. It's like, trend. We're trendy in the US, So right now, I feel like um I don't know if people still really realize the gravity of the racial thing, you know. A lot of people, a lot of I won't say a lot of, but I will say, there's a certain percentage of white population I don't think really understands, like it's still a thing as much as we all became aware of it, but now what are we all really going to do about it, um and that's again both sides too, but I think the issue of educating yourself on on the issue and staying on diligent about it and wanting to make a difference somehow. um I don't know if people are still doing that, I don't I think obviously vaccination and public health is taken, has been the thing for the last year or so, but I still feel like there's room to still think about things, that are important, and like I said, they all came up at the same time, you know, they're having to deal with everything now. So we should continue to deal with it, and address those things. And it seems like there's been an increase nationally in, the police shootings and that type of thing hasn't gone away at all. Um, I don't know what I think about George Floyd. I don't know if that changes anything, I really don't. Um, I don't know if that changes anything.
What do you feel about the abolish the police movement?
No, that's I think common sense would dictate no. No, 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 no. I think there's a need where we're not advanced enough in the United States to not have police. We're not England, and we don't have bobbies here. We for a reason, because we're not set up like that. It's a violent place. So
So
again, police, not all police are bad, that's just truth, but the way that they're trained is not doesn't really fit the times, it does. The way they're trained, they're not really trained properly, and that's where the issues come in. There needs to be some real psychological things that need to happen and get inside these people before. I try and not overreact to every time that happens when police overreact, um, because it's a fine line. You have to be put in that situation to understand what might happen. You're not armed, you should never be shot. Traffic stop, you shouldn't get shot. We do still need them. There's definitely a need for them, but they've got to be on a leash, basically our leash.
mhm.
We pay for them. We pay, you pay city taxes, which in turn some goes to the police. So they get to be held accountable. And that's the thing that hasn't happened. They can't be, you can't police the police, that's their mentality. We're the police. What do you mean?
Right.
So,
And that's really about their history.
right. But if there's a way you can legislate it to make it a law, it's us. We get to decide how you police us. How about that? We need somebody to protect us sometimes. I mean, I grew up in a somewhat of a military family as well. So I do have a respect for people in uniforms and stuff like that. I also went to a military school as a young child, a boarding school. And so I have a great deal of respect for people who serve the right way.
Do you think there'll be change in this new administration?
A change meaning?
For civil rights, civil
Yes.
community.
Oh, yes. That's already happening. I can feel that. Joe Biden, as you were saying, yeah, I do have a small story about Joe. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, and I would travel into school every day from my house in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, down to downtown Philadelphia. And every now and again, I would run into Joe Biden on the train. And this is maybe when I was in 7th or 8th grade. 7th, I'm going to say. So we became buddies, and he would ask me, the normal older man questions you ask a young guy, what school do you go to? You like sports, what's your favorite subject? So we always would chat about history, and every now and again he would quiz me on the three rivers of Pittsburgh, which I still forget. But that was my story, and that was a good 2 or 3 years. I would just like run into him. That I knew all the conductors on the train too, and so if he was already on, they'd say, oh, Senator Biden is back there. He's like, go say hi to him. So I would wave, sometimes sit down, talk to him, but the few times I really enjoyed meeting him. He's a genuine person. He's pretty much what you see. I mean, played up a little bit, obviously he's in front of cameras. Everybody got to remember that. Before, well, when Obama was running, I was more of a Joe guy, and because I wasn't familiar with Obama. Um, so it's kind of interesting that he's made it this far. It's pretty up in years now, but I, you know, I like his direction. He knows it needs to change, else this whole thing's going to fall completely apart. You know, um, I'm still a little surprised he picked Kamala in a way. I mean, I guess he had to, but she's perfect for the job. Perfect. I mean, I hope she can have, you know, some more real influence than most of the last few vice presidents. Racially, I think he understands what's going on. It's just a matter of us now, not so much him or his administration. We got to just change the way we live. Eugene's a good model, though, for starters. Eugene's the starter kit, for change. So I'm just pleased to be here. I made it through my first winter. I really appreciate you guys and you ladies and doing what you're doing, and your project is important, and I have that same desire, and you know want to see change happen the right way. I want to speak from my experience, so thanks for the opportunity to kind of verbalize it. It's just it's just a lot of alone time, you know what I mean? There's a lot of thoughts in your head, and it's nice when you get to share them with other people sometimes. So thank you so much. And I'm just anytime anytime if you need a man on the street, keep engaged, keep but I looking forward to meeting some other folks. I've met some African American business owners and stuff here, mostly in the food side of things. That's kind of my other passion besides music. So I'm going to reconnect with some of them. We exchanged. One gentleman said he's I think, on the board for NAACP. So I'm hoping too, once we get the music going back, we can do some things to expose, tie some things together with, kind
What's
of
your favorite genre?
Soul.
Yeah.
Soul music, R&B. Yeah, I think.
Well, here's an interesting question. What do you think, in light of what's been happening with Black Lives Matter and that sort of stuff, and the music industry being kind of closed and inside the homes and not outside, when we finally come out again, do you think that that the influence of this last year and the protests will affect music, and how might music interact with what's been happening?
I hope in terms of actual, artists of color being exposed more. It's always about economics, though. In the concert, you look at audiences; they're all white for live music. It's like rare you have an all black audience, and especially, white artists go see white artists mostly, and same for blacks. They mostly go see people look like them for some reason. So it's an economic thing too that I don't know. I don't think we're gonna solve that. Like, I don't know how you change that or expose artists more where people are used to other things. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to see more, R&B soul festivals instead of more rock and roll and, electronic music festivals, but promoters don't really, because they know that people of color mostly don't have that type of cash, to just drop concert tickets now. Like a low end is like $100, so you know even that, like, you said coming back with like the pod shows. You're familiar with the pod people
Mhm.
shows, and you buy groups of 6 and people spread out and that kind of thing, social
Mhm.
distance. um Even that's like, who can afford that really,
Mhm.
so it'll never kind of be the same unless it's completely safe,
Mhm.
then it'll go back, and then we'll have more of an opportunity to expose things, you
Mhm.
know the right way. But I really put it on a lot of the promoters, like,
Mhm.
come on, people like all types of music, just present it, just do it,
Right.
you know yeah, and like I always kind of fought that in the Bay Area. 'Cause I worked with Bill Graham Presents. If you're
Mhm.
familiar with concert production, he is like the guy. He invented the rock concert
Mhm.
experience in the US. So being around that, and then knowing a lot of other promoters in the Bay Area, I always found that they just never would book black artists. I don't
Mm.
know why. Big ones that everybody knows,
Right.
a
Right.
Gladys Knight, you
Right.
know, who doesn't know or love Gladys Knight? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, just present it, man.
Mhm.
Just don't know why they're stuck in these lanes of
Mhm.
like people like this and that. It's like, no, music is that one, probably the one thing we can all shake hands on here,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So
There's an
I want to see
interesting,
that here in Eugene, I
yeah.
mean, I think for me, I used to promote concerts as well. So, you know, that's something I'd love to do,
Mhm.
bring a really good soul concert here and just
Mhm.
start exposing people to it.
Mhm.
I love your station here, KR, KRD,
KRDM.
so great. They
Mhm.
play some great music. I listen to their Soul City show
Mhm.
pretty much
Mhm.
every Sunday. And you know so I'm always looking for ways to tie in like
Mhm.
the music side of me into
Mhm.
like stuff like we're doing.
Mhm.
I used to put together a Martin Luther King day event down in Oakland every year,
Mhm.
um, and just got great artists who are buddies of mine, guys who
Mhm.
knew that I was trying to like push it forward. They
Mhm.
would just show up and play, and people come and pay, and we give it to local, you know, NAACP,
Mhm.
or whatever group, Um,
There's a group here in town that's doing they're putting together a new event. It's called Porch Fest.
mhm.
And they're inviting people to host a musician on their porch and people in their yard and listen to the music that way. And I think that's a really fun new kind of thing
Yeah,
to,
yeah. My friends in Bay Area are doing that now. My
yeah.
friend Mike, my buddy Mike Mink just told me he lives in Marin County somewhere. So they
Mhm.
do people's houses all over. Yeah, yeah. It's a good concept. I like it. Living room, like the
Right.
living
Living
room
room
show.
concert, but it's outside.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you both, and thank you for having me. And I really think stuff like this is well, past being needed, and
Mhm.
um, this is how you start.
Mhm.
This is how you start to make change. Just what you're doing right now, and uh, you know, we all have the same stuff, man. Believe me. We
Mhm.
got bills just like you.
Mhm.
So people just need to understand that we have an opportunity right now. Now that our eyes have been opened a bit,
Mhm.
we can really make some changes here. It's not hard.
Mhm.
Um, it's really not hard. just having a little bit of understanding about how somebody else may have to live, be made to live, you know. Think about how you feel, you know, a little bit. You don't have to, but it would be great, you know.
Mhm.
Just think a little bit about like, hey, wow, shit could be a whole lot different.
Yes.